Share a video with you today about one of my valuations I went on this afternoon. I went to the property. It's freezing cold. I had to take my shoes off as I respect the laws of the house. I put my feet on the ground and it's like ice, like walking on ice. As I'm walking around the property, there's no radiators on, there's no windows open, but there's a big loud hum. And I look in the corner and this gentleman's got a dehumidifier on. I start talking to him. And I said, explain to me why you got the dehumidifier on. What makes you have it on? He goes, oh, there's lots of damp in the property. I'm removing the water from the damp. So I started talking more, as I do. I've got a bit of a background as a surveyor from my 2 degrees. And from what I've learned is it's good to know all the facts before you make a decision. So I was speaking to him. I said, show me some photos. He had lots of evidence. I said, you show me the photos. And the ceiling was like, in the bathroom, was covered in black stains. And nowhere else. And then he showed me some more photos in the bedroom. There's a few black marks in the corner of the room where it's really cold. I just started talking to him and I said, do you turn the heating on? He goes, no, I only use the heating in the room that I'm in. So I have all the other heaters off in this property and just one radiator on in the one room that I'm sitting in at that time. Obviously, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you're not heating the house enough, you're not ventilating it enough, and all the moisture from you breathing, the warm air from trying to dry your clothes and cooking and sleeping, it's just travelling to the cold parts of the room, and it's condensing on the ceiling, and they're not wiping it off. When it condenses, it turns to mould, which is black mould. So many people mistake that as damp. It's not damp. You know, you need to ventilate and heat a property properly to stop it having issues with condensation. Happens a lot with students. Obviously, students don't want to spend too much money on bills. But then when they move out the property, they have to pay for the repainting of the ceilings, which costs more than the bills for the year. Sort of doesn't make sense. I think, you know, a lot of people should strongly consider if they're going to be using a dehumidifier or they're going to use the heating. Removing the water from the property is it's a bit of a silly way around of doing it. I would have said to heat the property properly is probably the best way. You can have a nice warm property. I actually spotted that they have blankets on the sofas and blankets in the dining room as well because it's cold in there. My feet were freezing in there and he actually blamed it on damp, and I explained to him that it wasn't damp, and I said you must check how much you're spending on gas because you're probably not spending enough. He was in denial, which they will be, but at the end of the day he's had to live with condensation problems on the ceiling because he's not heating the property properly, and it happens all the time with rental properties. But this one was a sales valuation. It's a tenant living there, so the agent managing it aren't doing it properly, or if it's self-managed by the landlord, he's clearly not inspecting the property, and he doesn't know his stuff enough to explain to the tenant what to do. I had heard that the ceiling had been repainted and the tenant hadn't paid for it. We would have charged the tenant for it because the tenant was actually getting it wrong. So the landlord could have saved some money by using an agent because what else is he getting wrong? What else are they doing incorrectly? Who knows? I suppose it's another story that I want to share with you about condensation. Condensation is one of those calls we get every single day. Yes, there are genuine examples of the house having some problems, but I would say in my experience 80% of them is because the people aren't living in the house properly. They're not ventilating, not heating, and they're drying and washing in an area and they're not letting that water escape. If you want to know more about this sort of stuff, or you think your friends want to see this video, share it. And you can hear more from me, Sammy, the Harborne Property Expert. Thanks for listening.